Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news this Wednesday, the 10th of December 2025. How are we all doing as the Mainoo meltdown continues? We'll talk about that. Also, Amorim backs the Glazers. Is that a good move or a bad move for Amorim and his long-term future at United? We've also got updates coming in around Semenyo. We're also going to be talking about Xerxes, a few other transfer stories as well, and fundamentally getting your reaction to all the things that are going on. There's even some talk of Mo Salah, which I think was a joke, but we might have time to talk about that as well. But look, another morning, another story around Mainoo. Obviously, I think some people thought I might not be here for the show this morning. I had a few drinks last night, but nothing that wouldn't stop me getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, attacking the day, doing my emails. No, I wasn't up at 5. I was up at about 5 to 10. No, I was up earlier than that. But no, feel fine, fresh as a daisy. Fantastic show last night. I need to watch it back because, yeah, there was a lot of things said. Fundamentally, I think the thing that got me going last night was this story that came out about how United don't want to do business in January. They want to wait till the summer to see if they're in Europe, which I find incredible. And it actually, I woke up this morning and I was like, did I make that up? No, it actually is true. And we will talk about that because I just think Amorim's in big trouble at the moment. I know last night's show was more about the owners and fundamentally how they're responsible. But you look at this Mainoo situation, right? I mean, I look at United and I think the way Manchester United is being run now, it's almost like being at school. When you've got a headmaster and teachers and they basically tell you what to do. We're like the pupils and the headmaster is like the Glazers and Ineos, and then you've got the teachers, the Baradas and the Wilcox, and they're basically telling us how it's going to be. You've then got former pupils, like, the class of 92, who were very successful at the school when it was run in a different way, saying this is wrong. But you've got the headmaster who's like, we're not listening to you, you're former pupils, we're in charge. And it's like this dictatorship of a mess. And I think, look, the principles of what we thought this school was are not there anymore. Like, you look at the situation with Mainoo. I think, obviously we mentioned yesterday about Nicky Butt saying he needs to go. Paul Scholes saying he needs to go. Rio Ferdinand said it yesterday, obviously saw the Nicky Butt stuff and copied it, and he said he needs to go. This is a huge problem for Manchester United, and it is a meltdown because when you've got ex-players coming out publicly doing articles and videos saying he needs to get out of Man United for his career, that's really damning. Like, we're probably quite used to it because there's so many players talking about Man United these days, but it's still really damning. And I think that it's really difficult to see what the situation is. And we were talking about this last night. You've got the toxic negativity, you've got the toxic positivity and everything in between. And I still do see people going, oh, he'll play when the AFCON's on and everything will be fine again. But I look at it and I go, well, I don't think it will be fine. Because if he gets picked during the AFCON and plays well, all the people that have been saying pick Mainoo for the last 4 months will go, this is why he's an idiot, because he should have done this 4 months ago. So it's not like if he picks Mainoo and Mainoo does well, everyone will go, oh, well done, finally, Amorim, you're brilliant. You were right to ignore him for 4 months. I think a lot of people will go, well, here we go. This is why he's not good enough, because he's stubborn, and now he's had to use him, and he's proving that he should get picked. So I think it's problematic. And obviously, if he doesn't keep picking him, the problem continues, and you get this continued state of what's going on. I think this is a problem, and I think Man United can't control it. And the hilarious thing is that Mainoo has got nothing to do with it. He's done nothing. He said nothing. He's done no interviews. He's not leaked anything. He's just kept his head down and done his thing. The only thing he said was at the end of the transfer window was, I want to go on loan. Because he probably knew what was about to happen. And at that time, I and many other people were like, I don't really like that. Stay and fight for your place. But once we hit October, I think I and many of you changed your mind and went, he was probably right. Well, now in December, he was definitely right. I had a problem with him saying he wanted to leave in August because it's like, you don't want players saying they want to leave Man United, but we're not always in possession of all the facts. He was absolutely right. He was absolutely right to ask to leave in August, now knowing what we know. And obviously he knew what was coming. So Mainoo's behaviour is effectively impeccable. He's not done anything wrong. There's not been any leaks. There's not been any interviews. He asked to go in August and he was right. It's everybody else who's talking about it, you know, the ex-players, you, the press. He's actually not done anything. He's not done anything to cause any problems. He sits on the bench. He gets his couple of minutes and he carries on. And I think this to me now is like, I saw what Laurie Whitwell said about, and I'll read it out to you. He basically said, on Mainoo going out on loan, I get the sense that nothing will be decided until after the AFCON, which is late January. United will see how that goes. Even if he might want to start earlier, getting more minutes regularly, it's ultimately the club's call. I would anticipate that the picture becoming more clear later in January. Napoli had interest in him last summer, and I sense abroad is where he'd like to go if he were to get a move away from Man United on loan. And this is where I want to talk about Amorim a little bit, because I just think that what we've got going on at Man United at the moment isn't Man United. Like, it isn't. And we can argue it, we can debate it, but this is not Manchester United. This is not a Man United that I recognise. This is a new Manchester United, and it's one I don't like. We have a player here who is 20 years of age, who 2 years ago was one of the most exciting players we've had in years, and 2 years later is just redundant. We won't pick him, and we won't let him leave. And I think that is disgraceful for any football club. And I'm surprised it's not being spoken about more externally from Man United, because I think this is disgusting, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because Sir Jim's a local lad and he's British, and you know the press bloody love him for that, and because they're fed up of all these foreign owners, because I think that's what it's all about. Even though we are still foreign owned because the Glazers own most of the club, I cannot believe that journalists and the media have abandoned their supposed understanding of what Manchester United is just because we've got a British partial owner. Like, this treatment of Mainoo, whether you like him or not, is disgusting. It's disgusting to treat a player like that, and it's disgusting to go, you might not be going in January, we'll make our decision later in January. He should be allowed to go out that club on the 1st of Jan. He should be allowed to go, look, I've sat on my arse for 5 months, I've not caused any problems, I've not done any interviews, I've not liked posts on Instagram, I've not wore a different shirt on holiday, I've kept my head down, I've waited for the opportunity, I've not been given them, the manager doesn't like me, and you're going to make me sit here in January because you might not want to buy a replacement, and my career continues to die. And I'd also say, if I leave on loan, which is what I want to do, I want to go on loan, not leave. If I go on loan at the start of January, and I start playing well in January, I'm more valuable to you anyway. I could come back in the summer. I could be sold in the summer. So basically what you're doing is you don't want to play me, but you don't want me to leave either because you don't want to buy a replacement, because that's your big plan, isn't it? That's what it's all about, really. It's not about me. It's not about the fans. It's not about anything else other than saving money. You actually want me to sit on the bench for the rest of the season because you don't want to buy a midfielder until the summer, and to fuck with what the fans think and to fuck with my career. And I think it's disgusting. And I think that's why some of the ex-players are being quite vocal about he needs to leave, because they're probably looking at it from a player perspective, being ex-players themselves, and going, if I was in that situation, what do you do? This is a player as well that was meant to be signing a new contract 18 months ago, and there was a bit of deliberation, and now he's lost all stance on that because he's not in the team. So, he's not on a very good wage comparative to everybody else. He's not getting game time. And they're basically saying, yeah, we probably won't let you go in January either, because look at what if anything happens to Bruno and Casemiro? And I think it's disgusting. And I think sometimes you've got to look at it and go, calmly, what is our club becoming? Because, you're meant to be proud of your football club. You're meant to be proud of what we are. And I'm not proud of a lot of things this football club's done over the last 20 years. But one thing I think we've always been able to say is, look, we are about the youth. We've had a young player on the bench since the 1930s. But the way we're treating a young player there, I think it's disgusting. And I guarantee I'll read the comments later and people will be like, well, I agree, he's shit, he's slow, he doesn't track back. We're not talking about the player. We're not talking about the player's attributes. We're talking about, if he's shit, let him go. If you think that, why do you want him to stay? Everybody should be universally understanding that the treatment of Mainoo is a disgrace, and he should be allowed to go on January the 1st, as things stand. And it doesn't matter whether you think he should be starting or whether you think he should be sold. The point is the club won't let him go because they're like, they don't want to buy a midfielder in January. Because if they let him go, they've got to bring a replacement in. So basically they want to rot a 20-year-old's career for another year. And I think that's disgraceful. I think if this was Newcastle, I'd be doing a video on That's Football. If it was Arsenal, I'd be doing a video on That's Football. I'd be saying that's disgusting to treat a player like that. You know, to basically put the handbrake on their career. And, you know, what can he do? What would you do in Mainoo's situation? Like, nobody should be saying do a Mo Salah. Nobody should be saying do a Ronaldo. And fair play to him, he hasn't. But, I mean, imagine the mental impact. Imagine the mental impact on him. Like, you know, 2 years ago, everything's there for you. 2 years later, you're basically trapped. I think it's a disgusting treatment of the player. But look, this can be solved. And I think, you know, Amorim can solve it. Either steps. Amorim to me needs to stop towing the party line. Many of you said this, and this is where, you know, Amorim backs the Glazers. Because what I mean is, Amorim clearly is backing the Glazers in their treatment of Mainoo and everything else. If Amorim doesn't like Mainoo, he should be saying, look, there's a player there who has a value that we need to get out on loan, like we did with Anthony, like we did with Rashford, and look at what happened with them. You know, we got money for Anthony 6 months later when no one thought he was worth anything because we got him out on loan. We need to get him out on loan, preferably not in the Premier League, and he needs to be gone on 1st of January, but you need to give me a replacement. What we cannot do is allow him to be sat there on the bench when I don't want to use him. And Amorim should be pushing that. And what I'm seeing from Amorim, and many people predicted this, in his first season, he would come out with things like, this is the worst Man United side ever. He'd be very, very honest. He came back second season and he started towing the party line. Exactly the same thing happened with Ten Hag. And Amorim needs to realise that you are not a Glazer bitch. You are not a Glazer bitch. And Ten Hag made this mistake and Ollie made this mistake. If you want to stay at this football club long term with the support of the fans, you need to be with the fans, not with the Glazers. They don't want to sack you, mate. You don't need to bend over and, you know, take it from the Glazers. You don't need that. You don't. They don't want to sack you because it's going to cost them money. You need to stand up again and start speaking like you did last season. And you need to start hinting again about players that you need in January. Because all I'm seeing from Amorim at the moment is this deflated person who doesn't want to criticise anyone. Doesn't want to criticise his team. Doesn't want to criticise the owners. Doesn't want to criticise anything. He looks lost. Whereas last season he was like, we need this, we need that. These players aren't good enough. Have you noticed Amorim this season doesn't do that anymore? He doesn't criticise players. He doesn't criticise the owners. He doesn't talk about we need this in January. He's become a shadow of his former self because he's basically become the guy that in the summer has been told to shut up and get on with it. When actually, your reputation is on the line, mate. Like, why would you shut up? If they sack you, they've got to pay you. They don't want to pay you. So why are you towing the line? You need to be a little bit more in your interviews about, I need more players. Some of these players aren't delivering for me. I need more players. There's clear holes in the team. We need to hear those things instead of just going, we're going to suffer. You know, we're going to suffer. I told you we're going to suffer. I've told you this. I've told you that. No, but what's the vision? What is the vision? Because we don't know what the vision is. And in relation to Mainoo, he's clearly not part of your vision. So you should be pushing that exit and saying, I want a replacement. And United then have to do something about it. But I don't like the treatment of Mainoo. And you know what? Whatever you think, I think we've just become so accustomed to it. It's really strange to have former players of this football club who've succeeded at this football club saying, get out of this football club. I just think I think we've just become accustomed to these sort of things. But that's a huge issue. When you've got ex-players who've succeeded at this club telling a current 20-year-old to get out of Man United, that's a big message because those ex-players care about Man United. But they're telling this player to leave. And I think this is a big problem. And I think there's multiple problems at Manchester United. But I also think that United need to solve this very, very quickly. Because if they don't, we've got a problem. And also, I would add into this, I genuinely think if Amorim did start picking Mainoo now, it wouldn't solve the problem. Because the trust is gone between the player and the manager. And the fans would go, well, you should have done this 5 months ago. So I think this is a huge problem for Amorim. I think it's a huge problem. And it's not created by us. It's not created by the fans. I think it's created by the ex-players. I think when you've got ex-players that have been very successful at this club telling a player of yours to get out of that football club, let's just break it down for a moment. What does that mean? If a Rio Ferdinand or a Nicky Butt or a Paul Scholes is saying get out of that football club now, what does that actually mean? Well, what it means is I'm a former legend of this football club. I've been successful at this football club. I like this football club, but leave it. Get out of it because it's toxic. It's bad for you. You're better than this. You're better than this football club. You're better than this situation. But they care about Man United. So what that means is if Mainoo needs to get out of this football club, it's not a club they recognise and they don't respect it and they don't like what's happening to him. So they value the player over what's happening with the club. That's a huge statement, which means that I don't think they like the manager. I don't think they'll come out and say that, but I don't think they like the manager. And I think there's a lot of ex-players that don't rate this manager. And I'm not going to list them off, but they're all in the media. And I don't think fundamentally they like the manager. And that's a problem. That's a very big problem because as we know, people get stubborn. Jay, anyway, give me your thoughts, of course. Lots to get into on the show this morning. James says, I think it's a problem, and I think it's a problem that people aren't realising that, you know, it's not normal behaviour for ex-players publicly to be saying get out of Man United to a player. That's not normal. And I think this situation it's almost like the club are constantly trying to chuck positivity at us to you know, it's like a shit that you're spraying perfume on and saying it doesn't smell. United are chucking perfume at the shit going, it's fine, it doesn't smell. And it does. And I think that, you know, obviously we're not talking about results. Of course we could beat Bournemouth on Monday. I think, you know, I'm not allowed to predict, but I watched Bournemouth play against Man City, high line, pressing forward, perfect for us on the break. You know, there's a very good chance we could beat Bournemouth on Monday because of the way they play. Villa do the same. So we could win our next two and results change moods. But do results change the way that this club is being run? I don't think the way the club is being run at the moment is very good. And I think a lot of people are waking up to it and going, this is not Manchester United. Are we now just being driven by results? Because the way we're behaving, at what price are those results? And that's a great point. At what price are these results? You know, results are one thing, but what's the vision and how are we doing this? Like, I don't want to see a team winning for the next 2 years that's got Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro and Dalot in it. I don't want to see that. That to me turns my stomach. I want to see Bruno as a 10. I don't mind seeing Dalot on the bench or Luke Shaw on the bench, but I don't want to see them all starting. That's not a vision to me. But we might win games doing that, but that's not a vision to me. And I think that the pathway we're going down is, as I said to you the other day, I mean, I'm not sure we've played football this bad in 10 years. I'm open to being, yeah, I'm open to examples of worse football, but anyway, 100% Mark, Amorim, Mainoo situation will sack Ruben. Says Neil. Well, I mean, I don't know that the Mainoo situation sacks Amorim. I just think he could handle it better from a PR point of view. This radio silence is strange. Is it the club telling him to do it? I read one of your comments the other day and it was like, have you ever considered the club need to keep selling a homegrown talent every year? Garnacho was pure profit. Rashford will be pure profit. Mainoo's next. And I thought, so that conspiracy theory would be Amorim needs to sell Mainoo, so he has to freeze him out when actually he likes him. I think that's a leap, to be honest. James says, I don't want Mainoo to leave permanently, but I'd be relaxed about a loan. 100%. He needs to get out. I would love to see Mainoo playing for Napoli or Brighton tomorrow. Love it. That way, either Amorim is backed in January and succeeds, or he'll be gone and Mainoo will get a chance under a new manager, says James. And also, you know what? Last night's show was so good because it really wasn't about Amorim in any way, shape or form. It was about how badly the club's being run. But maybe, you know, going back to the one arm behind the back thing, look at it like this, right? Mainoo wants to leave. Amorim wants him to go, but he needs a replacement. So that triangle is quite easy. Mainoo wants to go, Amorim wants him to go, but he needs a replacement. Easy. If I'm in charge, there's your replacement. Mainoo goes on loan. Everybody's happy. So that triangle can be resolved really quickly, and everybody wants it. You know, Amorim wants a replacement. Mainoo wants to go. Everybody gets what they want. Really easy transaction, because there's loads of people who want Mainoo, and there's probably quite a few options in January we could bring in as a replacement, whether it be a loan or whatever. So maybe, you know, Amorim's a victim himself, because that, to me, looks logical. I think Amorim doesn't rate Mainoo. Mainoo wants to go, so you do that deal. But then again, we go beyond that to the real crux of the problem, which is the owners going, we can't get anyone in January. Yeah, we can't get anyone in January, so you'll have to stay and you'll have to keep him until the summer. It's only the summer. Everybody does panic deals in January, and I think that might be the case. I think Amorim probably would let him go on January the 1st. And obviously Mainoo would like to go on January the 1st, but he needs a replacement. And the club are going, we can't do it. And again, we come back to this situation where this is not Man United. You can't treat Mainoo like that. You can't not back Amorim, and you can't keep a toxic situation running for another 5 months when we need European football. But I would guarantee, well, I can't guarantee it, but I would be very strongly inclined to believe that that is the situation, that actually it's the owners going, well, we can't get you a player in January, so we'll have to keep Mainoo, which is a disgusting way to run the football club. But that's what I mean about Amorim. This season, he's turned full circle like Ten Hag did. He should be sat there going, look, you know what? There will be opportunities in January, but it's about me getting what I want as well. If a player wants to go, I need to be given a replacement. He can say that. He spoke about this in fucking March. He spoke about it in April. He spoke about the need to bring players in and move players out. I think Amorim needs to start looking after himself. If I was Amorim's agent, I'd be like, you're towing the party line too much, and nobody likes the party line. As a manager at Man United, the managers that do well are the managers that, you know, play the game in between. Rangnick was very good at it. Amorim was brilliant at it last year. I mean, Amorim's results last year were abysmal. Abysmal. But what kept him afloat wasn't just the Europa League results. It was the way he spoke. He could lose a game badly, but he'd speak afterwards and he'd do a press conference and everyone would go, look, he's fully aware of the problems at this club. But this season, he's not doing it. He's sitting there and he's being asked about Mainoo and he's contradicting himself. He's saying he's a first team player, but then he's not giving him minutes. He's saying that he's Bruno's replacement, but then he's bringing him on for Casemiro. He's wrapping himself up in a situation where if I was his agent, I'd just say this, look, there's the possibility that we're looking to move players out in January, but it can only happen if I get players in return. We, the fans, then get the message. There are certain players he wants to move on, but he needs backing in January. And then when it doesn't happen, we go, well, it's not Amorim's fault. But at the moment, he's silent. He's like, well, no, I'm not saying anything. He needs to start protecting himself, because by doing that, the percentage of fans that back him will go up. And he stopped doing it. And I'll say this again. We as fans know a lot more about this football club and what's needed to be successful than the people who are actually paid to do it. And that's because we follow the club week in, week out, day in, day out, year in, year out. Some of these people just wander in like Wilcox from Southampton or Barada from Man City. And when Wilcox was at Southampton, he wasn't watching the United stand. He wasn't checking United results. He wasn't looking at how the club's run. You know, he wasn't interested. And when Barada was at Man City, he wasn't interested. And when Amorim was at Sporting, he wasn't interested. But that's fine. But when you get the job, it doesn't start on your day one. There's a raft of experience that you could have consumed, and they don't. They don't. We said this about Ten Hag. He didn't even give Rangnick a proper conversation. All the stuff Rangnick could have told him, and he didn't want to know because I don't want to listen to you because I'm in charge. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Talk to the hand because the face ain't listening. You know, Ten Hag did that to Rangnick, and Rangnick probably had the most information, valuable information that anybody could have had. And Rangnick didn't go to another club either. So if Rangnick and Ten Hag had had a conversation, Ten Hag could have also got a bunch of players that Rangnick was trying to get us to get. He could have gone for this player, but he didn't want to listen. Because these managers, they come in and they go, I don't care. I don't care. And if Amorim looked at Ten Hag's career at Man United, and it would take him an hour, And what we thought of Ten Hag in his first year and his interviews and what we thought about him in year 2, it was like night and day. Year 1, his interviews were really interesting. He was talking about problems, what needed to be done. Year 2, that disappeared, towing the party line. And I don't know whether Solskjaer ever did speak openly. I think he always did toe the party line because he was grateful. But Amorim last season didn't toe the party line, and now he is. And he needs to stop doing that. They don't want to say, mate, you're the most secure manager we've had in a decade. They don't want to sack you because if they sack you, it makes them look stupid and they have to pay money. You're in a Amorim needs to wake up and realise he's in such a good situation and he can be a lot more vocal about things he doesn't like because he's in such a strong position. He needs to stop protecting those above him and start protecting himself and being honest with the people who can save him. Because when you lose the fans, you're gone. And it just isn't, be honest. I want a player in January. And if you don't get one, at least we know it's not you. At the moment, I sort of look at it and go, is he the one saying don't let Mainoo go? Is he the one saying don't buy a midfielder? Which I don't think he is. Hi, Mark. Maybe the Glazers say to every manager that they should speak openly just in the first season to win the fans and then talk like an employee, says Christian. Mainoo is not an Amorim problem, but a Wilcox one, says Lev. Well, of course it's an Amorim problem, mate. Come on, let's grow up and realise that he's the manager of the football team and he decides who stays and plays. If we sack him this season or at the end of it, at least we will still have players to play a 4-3-3. Either he needs to push the club to get players in or go, says Lemon Lover. How about, and bear with me, says Slazy, Amorim starts using Mainoo in the centre midfield spot and puts our best number 10 in an actual number 10 role. I mean, Slazy, that would be too simplistic and too gratifying to most of us. I would just love to see Bruno Fernandes play at 10 and Mainoo play where Bruno is. And it's so logical and it can start happening after Bournemouth because Mbeumo and Ahmad are gone. That would be the logical thing. But you know why it won't happen? And I think we saw it against Wolves. If he puts Mainoo where Bruno is and we start playing well, which I think we will, then Amorim weakens himself because it's like, well, you were wrong and we were right. Look, you were wrong and we were right. Bruno's a 10 and Mainoo should be in the midfield. You were wrong. You got it wrong. You're the Man United manager and you got it wrong. And it'll be fine in the short term because we can go, told you so, told you so. But as soon as we start getting bad results, it'll kill him because it'll be like, well, you were wrong about Mainoo, so why should we trust you on this? I think he's backed himself into a corner now. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I think he's backed himself into a corner with Mainoo now. You see it in his interviews and you see it in his team selections. It's almost gone the other way. Because he's being asked about it all the time, he uses him even less. And look at the Wolves game. I think against Wolves, he could have brought Mainoo on a lot sooner. He could have even started him. But the reason he didn't is because of what happened. Wolves made us look like prime Barcelona. Our XG was nearly 5. We created loads of chances, more chances than we have in years. That game was literally get all your favourites on the pitch because they're going to cook. And that's why Mainoo didn't play. Because if he'd played Mainoo in that game and Mainoo had done really well, it makes him look stupid. So I think Amorim, in my opinion, and I might be wrong, I think he's backed himself into a corner with Mainoo now that he doesn't even want to use him because if he does well, it makes him look bad. I've done that one from James. Thank you. We saw Mainoo's level at Grimsby. Never again. Sell, says Mac. But that doesn't really add anything to the conversation, Mac, because as I said, it's not really about whether you think Mainoo's good enough or not. It's about whether the club are going to let him go in January. And if you want to sell him, then that means you want him to go in January. But if the club won't let him go, then you should be in agreement with us that that's disgusting and we shouldn't be treating players like that. I think the reluctance to send Mainoo on loan is because when most of our players have done well when they have left, Mainoo leaving and it doing well would once again highlight how dysfunctional we are, says Patrick. I know, and that's what I mean. It's almost like I can't think of the word really. We're sort of punishing Mainoo and ruining his career because we don't want to get proved wrong. You know what? It's like being in a relationship where you're not very happy. And you want to break up with them and you don't want to sleep in the same room and you don't want to go out with them and everything like that, but then you don't let them leave. You're not allowed to go and marry anyone else. You're not allowed to go and have a relationship with anyone else. You're not leaving. It's weird. Scapegoat. Yeah. scapegoat, prisoner, whatever. You know, you shouldn't be treating kids like that, but you shouldn't treat any player like that. If he wants to go and you don't want to pick him, you should let him go. You can't be like, no, you're staying. But I don't think it's necessarily Amorim. I think Amorim wants him gone in January, but I think the club are saying we can't get you a replacement. So, Camille says, you watch yourself back, narcissist. I don't normally watch myself back, but I can't remember most of what I said in the first half an hour, so I might watch it back if I get a chance today. Manager over players, but this manager is sacking himself, says Aman. Poor style of play and bad in-game management. It's a shame if we lose Mainoo. Eric Ten Hag didn't listen, or was Ralph NDA'd after the job, says MMA Takedown. No, Ralph Rangnick and Eric Ten Hag are able to talk to each other. I think Rangnick wanted to have a conversation with Ten Hag and he didn't want to do it. But look, you're probably getting a little bit too technical there. You wouldn't even need to talk to Rangnick. You could just listen to all of his interviews. You know, what I'm saying is new managers come in and we see it all the time. And a previous manager will have had problems with styles of play, certain players not performing, certain players performing. And the new manager comes in and go, clean slate. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you can learn so much from the previous manager, but nobody ever does it. I mean, you look at the previous manager, Mainoo was a starter for Ten Hag. Now he's not. You look at the previous manager, some players, like Dalot, were playing shit for Ten Hag. Now he's Amorim's best player. You know, one of Amorim's most important players. They don't look back at what players have done under previous managers. That's what I'm saying. They don't learn anything from past behaviours. And we as fans are sort of sat there going, what's this fucking vision? Because you're using players that have sacked that manager, that manager, that manager. They're ridiculously inconsistent. They'll turn up one week and they won't turn up the next. And I see Amorim doing that. I see Amorim literally using players that I've already seen sack other managers with their inconsistency. And I don't see that as a vision. I can't get behind a vision. I mean, take Luke Shaw, for example. How can he be somebody I get behind when he's, you know, prioritised England over Man United, which I think is unforgivable, but also he's been inconsistent and down tools. Well, down tools is too far. He's been inconsistent for Mourinho. He's been inconsistent for Ollie. He's been inconsistent for Rangnick. He's been inconsistent for Ten Hag. You know, how can I go, oh, this is the future? Yeah, Luke Shaw every week. I'd be an idiot. And that's not picking on Luke Shaw. He can moan all he likes, but the information's there. You know, you've played less games in 11 years than Bruno's played in 5. And you've been at the football club as a senior player for years and multiple managers have been sacked. I don't think you're the right person for me to go, that's a vision. But Amorim obviously does. And I think, you know, he's not the only player like that. So, you know, the vision is important. I want to talk about JJ Gabriel. I have a different take on this morning. So you can't move this morning for stories about JJ and what a talent he is. Absolutely amazing talent. And there's loads of stuff coming out this morning about, you know, he's regarded as the best player in the world, in the country, to be born in 2010. Comparisons to Phil Foden, and, you know, could be the next Neymar. He's trained with the first team. He's on first name terms with Bruno. I have a bit of a concern about this. And Black Moustache has just covered it. We won't keep him. In the summer, he was going to leave Man United. He was going to leave in the summer. This is in The Athletic, I think, this morning. He was going to leave Man United this summer, and Man United persuaded him to stay. But the scary thing about this is, and we've done it with Obi in Heaven, is that I think he's probably going to be a player that we remember, you know, for years to come, hopefully. But there is no guarantee he's going to be a Man United player. And Man United are constantly pushing it out there about how great he is, probably to try and make him stay. But the fact is, in the summer of 2027, we're powerless. Because the way contracts work in football now is you don't sign your first professional contract till you're 16. And you've got no hold on them at all. Which is why we were able to get those players out of Arsenal. Because at 16, he's basically free. He can go Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG. He can just go, and there's nothing we can do. The only thing we've got is, you've been here since you were 14. We love you at Man United. You know, here's a box at the new stadium or whatever. But it could be difficult, and Barcelona have wanted him for a long time, a lot of clubs. So my worry about him is that very, very talented player, very, very well appreciated in the club and the fan base. But when he hits 16, we're not guaranteed to actually keep him. And I think a lot of people are talking about, oh, I can't wait for him. He's going to be a superstar for the future. And fingers crossed he will. But you do need to understand when he hits 16, we're just in the same line as everybody else with a slight advantage that he's been at the football club. But so much of this depends on what we've just been talking about there. The treatment of Mainoo doesn't go well, does it? You know, that's not something that if I was his dad, I'd look at and go, everything's going to be all right. I'd also look at the club over the last 10 years and go, is this the right platform to develop? I mean, look, at the end of the day, do you want to go and play at Barcelona and follow the pathway of Yamal, who's winning titles and, you know, playing for Spain and, you know, doing really well for Barcelona? Or do you want to follow the pathway of, oh, yeah, I can't think of anybody at Man United? So, yeah, really talented player. Hopefully he's going to be at Man United for a very long time and become one of the best players in the world. But the way Man United's run at the moment, you could not, and you know where I'm going to go with this, you could not criticise him or his family for taking him to Barcelona. Which is exactly why, if you've been listening, you'll understand the enormity of where we started. When you've got ex-players like Nicky Butt and Rio Ferdinand saying to Mainoo, get out of that club, what do you think that does for Gabriel and his dad and his mum and everybody else? Do you think they're listening to that? And that's what I mean about how this club is being run at the moment and what a problem it is. Because the club are putting pictures and stuff about Gabriel saying, oh yeah, future player for the world. But ex-legends of this club are saying, get out of that club to a 20-year-old. We need to be the most attractive option in the shop. And at the moment, I don't know what the attraction is. I don't know what it is. The style of play's crap. The vision's crap. The ownership's crap. We're treating players like crap. And yet we're going, ooh, look at this superstar that we might have who could leave at 16 and there's nothing we can do about it. We've got until the summer of 2027 to really turn this club around. Not 3 years. Not 3 years, 18 months. 18 months. And he's probably going to be making his mind up before that. So if this lad is as good as he can be, we've basically got 12 months to sort our shit out. Because at the moment, you know, if you've got Paul Scholes saying to Mainoo, leave, what difference is it with a 16-year-old talent that needs to be in the best place to develop his talent? Are we the best place at the moment for a 16-year-old talent? And I think people are oblivious to this. I think they see the pictures and they see the posts and they go, oh my God, we're cooking when he's 18. Well, we're not, because he could be just wearing a Barcelona shirt. Very, very simply. Also, look at Obi. What's happened to him? Where is he? You know, a year ago, we were buying one of the best 16-year-old strikers in England. Now, I don't even know where he is. Yeah? We need to sort this shit out because the vision about developing youth is murkier than a muddy puddle. The vision about where this football club going is the same. And the way we treat people is about... Look, I'm old enough, like many of you, to know what Man United should stand for. It's what Sir Matt Busby stood for. It's what Sir Alex Ferguson stood for. And I think if you were a parent of a child that's in that academy and you spoke to Sir Alex, you'd want to be part of it. If you're at, you know, would you want to be part of this at the moment? Other than, I love Man United, you know? And, you know, I'm not saying any of my kids are ever going to be good enough, but I love Manchester United. I don't love the way we're being run. And if my kid was in that situation and I was being offered Barcelona and how well it's run or Man United, obviously I'd be conflicted because I love Man United, but I'd have to go, what's best for him? what is best for him. And at the moment, I don't think Man United's the best option for any young player because I don't know what the vision is. Now, it could change in 12 months, but it ain't looking good. And we're trying to pretend that we've got this world-class player that's going to take the club back to the top, but he might be wearing a Barcelona shirt in 18 months and we'll be powerless to stop it. The only way you get those players to sign is because you give them a vision and a future and a pathway to success to shine. And at the moment, I don't think we've got it. Yeah. King says, brother, at this point, just say Amorim out. We're not actually talking about Amorim, mate. We're talking about the club. Like, for the last 40 minutes, we've been talking about the club, so I don't know what you're talking about. And I think everybody's really tired and bored of me having to repeat for the millionth time, I would give Amorim the season. So, you know, I can't explain to you idiots the same thing over and over. And I've already lost 30 seconds of a show that I think has been really good. Get rid of you. Mainoo keeps it simple, holds possession and is tough to dispossess. It was Wolves, but with the sharpness, he'd deliver that level every week, says Yay. What if Amorim and Mainoo are both concerned by Glinios? They both know if Mainoo goes, Amorim is stuck, and both know Mainoo needs to grow, hence silence, says Sean. Seth says, managers came in because it's United, not aware of the power dynamics in the club. So during honeymoon period, all is good. Then after so many tries and not getting anything, they broke down. So they start saying bullshit. Manager overplay. I've done that one. Thank you very much. RC and Cars says the club is struggling to win and you're talking about developing youth. It's amazing how people's brain work, isn't it? You know, I'll never fail to be amazed by what people interpret a conversation to be. We're talking about somebody who at 16 signs his professional contract in 2027 on a news show where you can't move this morning for glazing of JJ Gabriel and how he's training with the first team and how he's really, really good. And what I'm saying is, at 16, he can sign for Barcelona and there's nothing we can do about it. So I'm not going to start thinking he's going to be a part of our future until we show a future. And at the moment, you know, he has all the power. And rightly so. He has all the power because that's the rules. And if Man United are going to try and make out that that's something to be positive about, all I'm saying is in 2027, he could walk to Barcelona and there's nothing we can do about it. And all the glazing and all the publicity disappears because he nearly went in the summer. So we as a football club, I don't think we're being run very well at the moment. That is why some of our legends are saying to players leave. I think that's a big problem. And they can paper the cracks as much as they like, but they need to start showing a vision and performance. Otherwise, we might not be at the bottom of the barrel yet. That's what I'm saying. Using the youth has always been the way. Man United have run the club. Why stop, says Els. Peter, thank you. Welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. A few other bits I wanted to go through this morning as well. What do you think about Ferdinand and Salah? I think Rio Ferdinand's a bit of a prat sometimes, isn't he? I mean, he just said we should bid for Salah as a joke. I mean, there's no joke if you're a joke yourself. Why would we bid for Salah? He'd reject us, and then we become the joke, and we are a joke. So I don't really... I mean, he's probably trying to say it as banter, isn't he? Let's bid for Liverpool because it will embarrass Liverpool. But, I mean, he'd embarrass us by saying absolutely no. So... I don't know. I don't get about that. Semenyo, apparently Man United are weighing up the transfer, but again, like, I think I'd almost cry if we signed Semenyo in January because as much as he's a good player, it's just absolutely not what we need. It's not what we need, is it? You know, it's like being starving, and your wife comes home with another set of knife and forks. You know, they're nice knives and forks, but where's the food? I don't think we will go for Semenyo, but obviously we constantly seem to get linked into him. Oh, this is for Robert McCormack. I wanted to bring this in. So, Robert McCormack, hopefully he's here in the chat. I don't know whether he is, but anyway, he mentioned yesterday about Mason Mount's importance, and I thought it was very, very much worth saying this because it came out. I think it came out yesterday. Manchester United's, what are your thoughts about this? Man United have a 71% win ratio when Mason Mount starts in the Premier League this season, compared to a 25% record when he doesn't start this season. That's incredible, considering that Ruben Amorim doesn't even have a 50% win ratio himself. I think Ruben Amorim's win ratio is about 45%. So when Mason Mount starts, we win 71% of our games. When he doesn't, it's 25%. So Mason Mount starting for Man United has a better win ratio than Sir Alex Ferguson. I don't know any more detail than that. It was simply, I saw it yesterday and I thought that's going to make Robert McCormack's day. I don't know what games he started though. Like, it might just be quite lucky. I mean, if you start against Wolves, you're going to win. I presume he might have started against Burnley as well at home. He must have started against Brighton and Sunderland as well. Yeah, or he might have only started 2 games. I don't know. Look, obviously, I think the context is that whether Mason Mount having a 71% win ratio is all fine and good, but the manager has a 45% win ratio and he manages every game. So how do we figure that one out? But look, Robert will be very happy about that. Sim says Mason Mount is part of the future. I struggle to see how he is when he's not even been available for 40% of his time at the club, but there we go. And as I've said to you many times before, I think behind closed doors, there is absolutely no confidence that he will be able to play 90-minute games consistently at any point in the future. So, consistently. And he's already been injured 3 times this season. One of them, they kept him on the bench, but he actually had a knock for about 3 weeks. Amorim is not interested in the academy, says GGMU. I laugh at people comparing him to Arteta, who used Saka, Martinelli over internationals like Pepe and Aubameyang, says GGMU. I think that's up for debate. I think there was a previous comment there that was actually relevant, and I've said it myself before. Can you throw young players into this team? No. Bruno's not a nurturer of talent, and he's the captain. Look at the way he throws his arm around at players. He's not a player that's going to develop young players. I think United have never been such a bad team for nurturing young players. So throwing young players into that environment isn't necessarily a good thing. Also, he needs results. We don't have a vision. We don't have performance. So the only thing that he can survive on is results. Which is probably why he doesn't want to use young players. Would you take Sergio Ramos, says Salah? No, we won't go anywhere near that. I saw that. I mean, it is a new... I saw that the other day. What a load of crap. We're not going to go anywhere near Sergio Ramos, and we shouldn't go anywhere near Sergio Ramos. Absolutely stupid idea that would be. We can't be doing stuff like that anymore. Look, I was very happy when we bought Ronaldo back, but we did say it at the time. There's no long-term vision in this at all. And we can't go for short-term when the short-term's not good. Logan says, would you take Mo Salah? No. Absolutely not. I wouldn't even do it for a joke. I think it's some things in football matter, and I wouldn't take any Liverpool player at Man United because they played for Liverpool, and a proper Liverpool fan wouldn't take any Man United player either. There's not a lot that matters in football anymore, but that rivalry does. I wouldn't go anywhere near signing a Liverpool player. I know people will say Michael Owen. I don't really acknowledge Michael Owen as a Man United player, but he came via Newcastle and Real Madrid, so it wasn't a direct signing either. No, I wouldn't bring Salah to Man United. I also think he's fell off. Look, we've been through that. We've been through that with Rooney. It's really sad when a world-class player falls off, and Rooney fell off at United, and it got to a point where I was disappointed he was starting games because I felt we were carrying him. I remember Rooney, and I might be wrong with Salah, but he looks a little bit like Rooney at the end. He looks like he's fell off. So yeah, I won't go anywhere near him. I won't go near him because he's a Liverpool player, to be honest. Right, thanks everybody for tuning in. Tonight's show will be a 7 o'clock show because it's Real Madrid against Man City tonight, and I'm hoping Real Madrid are going to cook. So we'll be live at 7 o'clock tonight. We've got a 2 o'clock show as well. Thursday, Ben Jacobs is on tomorrow, so we should get really good updates around what to expect in the January transfer window as well. So looking forward to that. Thank you very much this morning. Really good show. And, you know, some interesting conversations there that I almost feel sometimes we wander into journalism and what journalism should be. Like, it's a big thing to be putting out PR about JJ Gabriel when they full know well he can leave for free in 2027 and there's nothing we can do about it. But they're pumping out all this PR like he's going to be part of our future. And there's a very real chance that he will leave in 2027 and there'll be nothing we can do about it. And also, as part of that, how can United be PRing young players that are nowhere near, you know, committing their future to the club? And then you've got legends going, leave the club to a current 20-year-old. Like I said, Man United is like a school that's got its own set of rules that nobody likes. And everyone's sort of like going, what are you doing? You're ruining it. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. I'll speak to you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching.